Richard Utting from SharpShootingUK here, guys. Lovely Scottish evening. And what I have to talk to you about this evening is the very exciting Zeiss V8. This is the big 4.5 to 35 by 60. And it should answer all of the questions that we've been asking of Zeiss and indeed Swarovski over the years, which is, you've got the glass sorted, can we please have some turrets? Okay, so bottom line is we've got a premium Zeiss here, which, you know, would normally offer just about the best glass money can buy. But their previous efforts have not been great for dialing. So we've got one here with a proper windage turret, counts both ways. It is an upgrade, but it's available. And then a proper elevation turret with a zero stop. So things are looking very good. First off, let's just talk about the glass and what they've done here. If you imagine the Victory 6-24, you've got a classic 4x mag range. 6-24, that's how things used to be. Now you've got to provide a lot more mag range for people. Much more, certainly 6x, preferably even more, and that is the way that Zeiss have gone. They've chosen the very sensible mag range, in my opinion, of about 5 up to 35. That really does cover everything. It's actually 4.8 to 35. They've used a bigger tube for this. Huge tubes give you the ability to not compromise on the fundamentals, which is image quality, mag range, eye relief, field of view, and adjustment range. Those are the things that you put into the pot and you stir about, and you stay with a small tube. You have to compromise more than if you're in a 60mm tube, let's say. Current biggest on the market is the 40mm IORs, and it serves them well, that large tube, in that they are able to do big mag ranges, high quality glass, etc, etc. Now Swarovski, interestingly, with their attempt at this, went with the classic 30mm tube. That's a bit of an ask. To get premium everything in a 30mm tube is a bit of an ask, but they felt that they needed to stay 30mm, and they've done a masterful job of getting 80+ minutes, killer turrets. Admittedly only a 5x mag range, but it doesn't tunnel. It really does do 5 at the bottom, and it really, you know, does do 25 clean as can be. And they've kept, as I say, a lot of elevation range in there. So they've had a really good stab at doing this, and you now can have alpha glass with the most beautiful clicks. So Swarovski have made a really good stab at it. I think it's filled a niche really well, as per my review on this scope. So what Zeiss did was they went for a bigger mag range, you know, 8x, and they increased the tube not to 34 but actually to 36. Fortunately, my favourite, Tier 1, make these fantastic mounts for Zeiss. So mounting is a pleasure. So I think that's a good call. It's not unbelievably bulky. You could still have it on a fine rifle. I also think that going to 60mm, which gives a lot more resolving power than even a 56 does, was also prudent. And that certainly is shown in the quality of the glass. Long story short, what you're getting optically here is cutting edge. It maintains the class-leading glass of the Victory, and field of view, and eye box, and all of the things that are so important, and stretches that to the greater mag range from under 5 all the way to 35, which is job done. They have managed to double their mag range from 4x to 8x and not lose anything. In fact, I've done side-by-side comparisons with the 6-24 Victory, and they are in the same blink of an eye. They really are. They're very, very similar. Think of a 6-24. You've got 6 at the bottom. Okay, this will do 4.8. And there's no compromises on the field of view and such like, which you would often get stretching the mag range. So you've got a perfect 4.8. The Victory tops out at 24, which is sublime and perfect. This sails past 24, past 30, past 32, all the way to 35, which is perfect with no compromises on resolution, field of view, eye box, brightness. Perfect. So that is really, really something. It is class leading for all of the big numbers. Contrast, field of view, resolution. They have done it optically. Wow. They haven't impressed me, unfortunately, nearly as much with the turrets. For example, I keep comparing to the Swarovski because, you know, Zeiss and Swarovski are, you know, they are what you compare. So Swarovski have made progress, frankly, with the turrets. They're the state of the art. The clicks are sublime, just about best in the industry. They've got some innovative new features. The zero stop's excellent. They have their new zero stop, which enables you to go below zero should you wish to. They've got a brilliant turn indicator. What Zeiss have done here is, yes, you have got turrets that will dial. Notably, there is a proper windage turret. The problem is that the zero stop works on a pin. So there's a pin at 0, and when you hit 0, it stops you. Fine. The problem is that after one turn of the turrets, you hit it on the upstroke as well. So if you keep the zero stop pin in and you require a zero stop, you can have no more than one turn of elevation, which isn't going to get you out long distance. Well, Zeiss's long distance is 600 yards. That's what they're talking about as a long-range hunting scope, and that is a long way. But there are folks who want to put this on rifles and lob things out to very, very, very much more than that. And that is my perspective, and that's what I'm best suited to comment on. 82 minutes in the Swarovski is grand. The big tactical scopes out there will do 100, 120 minutes, plus your rail, etc., etc. The Zeiss isn't going to do that for two reasons. One, you've only got this one turn. And two, there isn't an epic amount of internal range in the scope. So returning to that compromise, that melting pot, as I was saying, of with X tube diameter, you can get a certain amount of field of view, a certain amount of mag range, a certain amount of quality, a certain amount of eye relief, and a certain amount of adjustment range. What they have compromised on in this scope is the adjustment range. And that is a bit of a problem in that you're not talking about a small compromise. And furthermore, this turret system, which is the same as on the Conquest HD and on the HT stalking models, is clever in that you have these bullet drop compensating rings which you can put round for various calibers, and that's really useful. You could, you know, dial round to 3 and, you know, your 30-odd 6 is on for 300 yards, and yeah, that's great. But if you're going to have proper turrets and be a genuine long-range scope, you need to let the people do the dialing and using a ballistic app and such like. So what you need then is lots of range, and you need turrets that are quick and easy to read. Now, in all the rings that Zeiss provide, there isn't actually one that does 20 clicks and then says 1, as in 1 mil. So here, for example, this is the best ring that there is, which is simply a click counter. And 10 there is half a mil, 20 is a mil. So if you imagine that you've got your one turn, that's 100 clicks. that is normally, with 1/10 of a mil clicks like the rest of the range, 100 clicks is 10 mils, which is, you know, well over 30 minutes. The problem with it being limited to one turn and being 20th of a mil clicks is, albeit that's a finer measurement and that has its place, you're then talking about, you know, 5 mils per turn, and you've only got one turn. So you have a total elevation adjustment range without hitting the zero stop pin as you go round a whole turn of 5 mils. Well, that ain't going to get you out very far. Now, one other thing I don't like about the turrets is that there's a big gap between the dot and the number. And it's quite easy. If you wanted 34, right? Is that it? Or is that it? See, it's not brilliantly legible because there's a round dot, not a thin mark. And then there's this big spacer. And of course, you're doing all your adjustment lifted up here. So that isn't cutting edge legibility on a turret, to be honest. Again, not the end of the world, but these are not turrets that are leading the industry here. Yes, the bullet drop compensating ring is easy to put in, and that's great. And I'm sure in the course of time, someone will make a ring that says 20 is 1 mil, 30, 1.5 mil, and that would be useful. But these are things that aren't 10 out of 10. And that's disappointing because optically, if you could have this glass and the Swarovski X5 turrets, for example, it'd just be perfect. My testers have also been quite vocal about this. These are lift-to-turn turrets, and that has a place. I personally don't prefer such a thing, but it has a place. So this one here is normal. It springs back, and people find that unpleasant to use because you have to constantly pull out against the spring. What you can do is you can remove the spring dead easily when you're putting your caliber ring in, and then it stays up. So I've got one here that I've modified, and people don't mind that at all. But this one, which is as they normally come with the spring in, I haven't yet to find someone who likes that. I also, just a small thing, if you're using a second focal plane scope, you need to know what mag you're on so that you can match up your ret. And you can't see your mag on this from down here, right? Even when you get right up here, you still can't see it, You've got to literally look right over the top of the scope because of the illumination dial to get your mag. See the tiny dot there? Now, if that were on the side here, that'd be brill, you know, but it isn't. So that's a small frustration. I prefer not to see illumination on the ocular because it means that you can't get add-ons on, and so many people use them. But, you know, with that small exception, the IR system is absolutely perfect. Just lights the centre dot, and it's mega fine, perfectly controlled, perfectly precise. It's just flawless. There are these lovely clicks in the side focus. Really nice. Gives you a little click at 300. So you know where you are. I say these clicks, there's actually only that one. A nice little touch there, very smooth. Quality of the scope's absolutely beautiful from the box on up. Absolutely lovely. I think that the IR is perfect. Tap for on. Twist for up. Twist for down. Absolutely lovely. They use very similar glass to the glass in the IORs, and you can see the similarity. The main difference optically between the state-of-the-art glass used in the big 40mm IORs is that the focus on the IORs is very snappy. I've talked about this before. It's very, very fine. The depth of field is very shallow. So you snap it in when you're adjusting it, and then that's it focused. And that has its advantages. The focus on the Zeiss is unbelievably generous and unfussy. Hundreds of yards of depth of field. And that is mainly beneficial at dusk. Even with the same quality of glass, if you've got a larger depth of field at dusk, your eye's given more information as the light really fails, and it just helps you perceive what you need to. And this V8 at dusk is a new standard for these high mag range scopes. It is really, really something. It's better than the IOR because the IOR is so snappy in its focus. Maybe the next generation will have, you know, really cracking turrets. And you know, props to Swarovski, who have rolled their sleeves up and really come up with something spot on. Having never done serious turrets before, they've jumped straight in at the top of the class, which is mighty impressive. What Zeiss have done is taken their turrets off their existing scopes and put them on, and that's not really good enough for the ultra long range stuff. If you've got a gun that you don't use an app, you've got a gun that is shooting factory ammo, you can look that up on the website, on their very handy calculator. You can select the right ring, which just screws in here. You take this cap off and you put the ring in there, and it will say 0, 1, 300, 400, 500. You know, brilliant. Although they'd be rather wider spaced than that, but perhaps 0, 1.5, 2, you see what I mean? And that is useful, but the level of precision that folks like myself are looking for, and the amount of adjustment range that we need to get right out there, I've never used a BDC in my life. You know, I just have no reason for that. What I want is a clear, loud, clicky, tall, zero-stopped turrets with loads of turns, easy indication to see where you are, that goes da-da-da-da-da, half a mil, da-da-da-da-da, 1 mil. Simple as that. I need to be able to read those things off. I don't want numbers of clicks. I don't want it in yards. I want mils or minutes. It's just that folks, they want to look at something, or folks like myself, they want to look at a rabbit out there 900 yards. Range it exactly. Put the details and all the variables into their ballistic app. Their ballistic app says 4.7 mils and 1.7 mils of wind or whatever. And you then dial that in. I don't need a ballistic drop ring for that. It's not exact enough for the variation in speed and pressure and the environmentals on the day. Spin drift and aerodynamic jump, all these factors we want to exactly work out, and then we tell the scope what to do. And that is not something that you can do on this scope. And that is a limited niche. You know, there are plenty of folks like me, but I'm sure Zeiss know who they're designing scopes for, and they've got their market just right. But you know, people like myself have always hoped for victory quality, but with all the latest gen stuff, the best turrets, and of course the 8x mag range. And we've got one of them. You know, the 8x mag range is sublime, but yeah, the turrets aren't going to do it. Now, don't get me wrong, if you want to use a high mag hunting scope, this is more what Zeiss have in mind. To glass a beast right across the valley, hundreds and hundreds of yards away, and have the optical quality and the comfort behind the lens to sit and watch it and work out whether it's the right beast for you, and then look at your appropriate caliber ring that you've put in. It's 400 yards. You go 400 yards. Wow, really handy, and that will work great. Just a little more on these rings for you guys. So this is the click counter, as I call it. It doesn't have mils on it, but it just goes 1 to 100. So you got 10 mils on there. Oh no, 5, because you're 20th of a mil clicks. Right, so there we go. Now, what you can do, dead easy, unscrew this top. The same on the Zeiss HT and the Conquest HT. Take the spacer off. There goes the ring. Okay, and then you choose one of these caliber specific rings. Well, not really caliber specific, but drop specific. Let me get it focused. Right, there we go. So this is number 4. There's your 0 at 100. That's 150. Then a little bit more to 200. Then obviously you need more and more clicks as the caliber drops off. 300 yards, 400. Okay, so you would look on the app, on the website, put your details in, and it will tell you which of these rings, and there are loads provided, is going to be the one for you. Okay, there's number 2, much flatter. And that takes you around to 600 on that one. This is ring number 1, the flattest. Okay, so you can see how it works. That goes down the turret. You 0 at 100, and then instead of having to think about what you... So let me put it all back together. I guess it's back on the top there. There's the lock ring, 1 lock ring. Okay. So you've zeroed at 100. So if your thing, your target's 325, there you go. Now that does have its place, and I know I've been really hard on the turrets. The selection of rings does match a lot of calibers, and it is handy, and people do like it, and Zeiss know what they're doing, and this is a long-range hunting scope, and it depends on your definition of long range, but you know, proper windage turret, which is, you know, fundamental, and then this clever ring selector. And, you know, at worst, you can just put the ring in that counts the clicks, which is the one that I had. Where's that gone? This one here. And I'll show you a little trick as well, which I've done in another video. What you can do is you can have your caliber ring in, get rid of that spacer, which is utterly a waste of space. Okay. You put your click counter on top like that. Then you need a rubber band so they don't slip. Just put a rubber band in there, do that up, okay, and then what you've got is you've got both. Now that's starting to get on towards being a usable turret. I know we've only got 5 mils, and that is limiting, and I know we've only got, you know, under 60 minutes of total elevation, but you know, all in all, it's livable, wivable, and the glass is so good that, you know, you are perhaps willing to take some, make some compromises. The turret looks better like that as well, doesn't it? I never understood why you'd have a turret that height and then you'd spend exactly half of it on a plastic ring. Strange, but there we go. There are little tweaks that will help you here. And you know, these turrets are a lot better than they were. They're not full dialing turrets, but they're yeah, they're capable for long range hunting. Fair enough. What wonderful all-rounders the rest of the range will be, though. You're talking about 8 times mag ranges, with the best optics that are currently available, with perfect illumination. And for that purpose, really quite useful turrets. They just won't stretch to the really long-range precision stuff. So this is not a bad review. What I'm saying is that my particular needs aren't being met by these turrets, and that's disappointing. But as a range of scopes for normal use and extended range hunting, which is exactly what it's designed for, they're just absolutely wonderful. But the lack of adjustment range, the single turn turrets, and the the strange markings on the scope, the lack of normal mills marked on the rings, means that it does fall down as an ultra long range precision scope. The idea, a few years ago that Zeiss would come out with a Victory that had twice the mag range, well, we'd have just been doing cartwheels. So I know I've been hard on the turrets because they don't suit my purposes, and they're not as good as the Swaro turrets. But what a fine piece of kit this is optically. Wow, it really is. So kudos to Zeiss. A truly remarkable achievement. You don't need to worry about rings for 36mm, because Tier 1, who make just about the best mounts in the world, I mean, I'm British, so I'm biased, but they're flawless, repeatable. They're incredibly tough and precise without being hugely bulky, which suits such a scope as this very, very well. Got your bubble in there. And then your titanium fittings, lightweight but strong, single bolt, perfect. Honestly, I cannot imagine a better mount for such a scope. So I think that's a really good move for those two brilliant companies to team up for these mounts. So you do not need to worry about, what's the quality of the 36mm mounts.